Today we're at Windang Island, and I just want to show you a little midden site just around this edge here. I haven't had a look at it for quite some time now, but last time I had a look at it, it was suffering quite a lot of erosion. Windang's got an interesting geology, so we'll have a look at that too, and just see if we can find any interesting stone tools or anything associated with the midden site. So just having a closer look at Windang Island, the midden site actually extends around this southern side, around the front western side here, and then along the north side, which we will spend most of our time having a look at. You can see a little bit of the midden site exposed up here. So this whole area would have been a midden site, and you can see the extent of the erosion getting in there, and I'll show you some other examples of erosion around the northern side here. So in the past this would have been where they would have gathered stuff from the rock platform, fished off the rocks, collected molluscs and other crustaceans, brought them back, lit fires and sat around and eaten their catch. So as you can see, the site's actually pretty extensive. We can see a lot of stones and things like that through there. I'm not going to disturb anything like that. What I'm going to do is just have a look at anything that may have come out along the side, anything that may have been washed out, eroded out. There's quite a lot of interesting stones already to be seen on the ground. There's this, you can see that it's been flaked on both sides. You can see one there, possibly one there, and then the original one on this side here. So there's a lot of little tools like this. See if I can find some more examples of this kind of thing. So again, what's interesting, if we compare what we see here to what we see at the Minamara site, is that we see a lot of these stones that have been broken in half. Now, as before I mentioned that these were possibly used, to crack the small molluscs off the rocks. There's a lot of examples of these all over the place, and in order to split these, force needs to be put right in the center here, so it's actually quite difficult to do through the action of waves and things like that. Quite a lot of force needs to be exerted on the stone to get it to fracture in this particular way. This one here, we can see it's had probably a little bit more happen to it. We can see a few different kind of flakes that have been knocked off this, and that has also been split in half. What's interesting when you have a look at the midden side, you can see all the different stones and stuff running through it. And these stones were used to crack open the shells. So you can see a lot of them, like that one there and there, that one there. Like a lot of these stones are actually hard igneous and metamorphic rocks, or some kind of rock that has undergone heat and pressure. And you can see the majority. If I just pan around a bit, you can see some of the harder felsic rocks there. So it gives you an indication of the kind of stones that were popular, for using on the shells and things like that. Okay, so this may be the first example of something that we can see that may have been broken for a particular purpose, and we can see that it almost appears to have the form of a tool, and we can see that it has this edge here has been worked on. We can see various, it's either small or soft hammer percussion marks or some kind of retouching that has just made this edge a little bit more serrated. So this is quite interesting. What we can see is we've got a piece of basalt, and we can see that a large flake has been removed from this side, and then again three additional flakes from this side. And this almost appears to be on purpose to create these notches, to create some kind of serrated edge. So this is quite interesting. What we've got here is a piece of igneous rock that's been broken in half, and right beside it we can see another piece of igneous rock, a piece of basalt. And we can see that it's been split in half and then two flakes have been removed from here. Maybe this was used as some kind of core and a platform to remove these flakes, but we can see that they didn't produce very nice concordial flakes, and the fracture looks to be a little random, so they may not have produced the best kind of flake. Also interestingly, near those other two stones we just looked at, there's also this piece of basalt, and we can see what appears to be some kind of boring in here. You can see that the boring in the centre even looks like it's quite smooth, and what we've got is a piece of basalt, again being split right down the middle, and these notches or borings here may have been used, as we've seen in other videos, as a hole to support a piece of wood or something like that for the purposes of starting a fire. So this may be a firestone. So what we've got here looks like a piece of greenstone. Now greenstone's interesting because it doesn't originate in this area, and one of the locations I know it does originate is Mount William in Victoria. I'm not saying that this is from that area, but greenstone in particular was valued and traded extensively. So this may have a similar origin, probably not as far south as Victoria or Mount William, but definitely not from this area. So that's interesting. This may have been something that was carried with them in order to trade, but that's a little bit of a guess, because this does fracture quite nicely to produce flakes. In some different areas as well, this also held a value of being a rainstone. So it may have had a similar significance at this site as well. So I found this. I'll give you a good look at this because it's quite interesting. What we can see here is we've got a piece of felsic rock, and we can see the rough outer cortex of this stone. But what's interesting about it is if we look at this end here, we can see that it's very smooth all the way around this lip, and it's got this kind of boring in it. I'm not sure what the purpose of this would be, but it's interesting that we do have this kind of use wear around this. So I've had a bit of a look at it and tried to figure out what it may have been used for, but I'm not sure what this could have been. But it is interesting that we've got such a rough cortex here, and then this part of it is worn very smooth all the way around. So what we've got here is a piece of pre-mineralized wood, and what's interesting about this is that it doesn't come from the geology of this particular area, and I've noticed a few of these in the different Midden sites, and that's quite an interesting thing in itself, because in the geology in which we're in at the moment, it's made mainly of breccia and other kind of fast-flowing sediment that was deposited sort of in a short period of time. And we can also see that it's got a lot of iron in it. It's sort of rusty sandstone, and that iron possibly has come from some kind of leaching through the irons, leaching it out of some kind of magma at some period of time. So this is not from this area, and it may have been, to the best of my sort of guess, maybe a curiosity that was collected and transported. Having a piece of stone that looks like wood yet it doesn't burn, I think would have been quite an interesting thing in itself. So I just wanted to show you this, just to give you a little bit of an idea of the geology. Now this is probably a good example of the kind of sedimentary deposits you can see at Windang Island. And what we can see is very mafic and some felsic rocks and stuff through this, and we can see that some of them are not particularly rounded due to the action of water. I mean, this one may be a little bit, you can see it may be a little bit rounded, this one here also. But what this does tell us is that this sediment and the different sizes within this were deposited at in a short period of time, and this may have been due to some kind of large mudslide or land slippage, and either due to some kind of volcanic uprising, or even magma extrusion, which has created a quick shift within the geology of the area. And we can see some mafic pieces in here, which may indicate that it had some kind of volcanic origin. Looking at the geology survey map of this area, it actually says that this Windang Island is part of alluvial sedimentary deposits and things like that, but as we can see with this kind of rock here, that we don't see the separation within the clasts as you do in a lot of alluvial systems, where you can see that finding upwards with the sediments getting starting from large and then going to small, or vice versa. Here we see a mixed or variety of sediment. But what it also tells us is that there may have been on hand, after some of these stones like this sandstone weathered out, various kinds of stones that could be used for flaking or whatever purpose they may have had had in mind. I'm just going to show you this. On first glance it doesn't look like it's anything really of interest. I spent a good couple of minutes having a look at this, and what intrigued me was how this end here has been smoothed down. We can see it's also quite smooth in this part here, but definitely this end is smoothed down. If we compare it to the rest of this basalt stone, we can see that the outer cortex is actually really quite rough. But coming up to this end here, we can see it's really smooth, continuing on in here. So I'm not sure if this was some kind of handhold. The end doesn't look like it's been greatly had much in the way of chattering or kind of damage to that edge, although there does appear to have a little bit of wear along there, which may be due to sort of removal of molluscs and things from the rock. That's quite interesting. I mean, something you would overlook quite easily because it doesn't fit any particular form, but definitely interesting that it displays this smooth area, or some kind of use wear area right there. I was hoping to find an example of a muller, and I think I found one. I was keeping my eye out for sandstone mullers, but I haven't come across any as yet. But what we've got here is a piece of igneous rock, some kind of basalt, and what we can see is that the majority of the outside surface is very rough. And if I flip it over, what we can see is that this particular face here is worn really quite smooth and is fairly flat, which gives us a good indication, along with its size, hand grip and things like that, that this may have been used for the purpose of grinding, and is what's known as a muller. So again, what I wanted to show you is there's another piece of phonolite, and this has got me curious for some time as to why this particular basalt can be found all over and all up the east coast. I think it held some kind of value, and possibly was carried due to its sort of strong properties. So as I mentioned before, many of these stones that are broken in half can be found, and they're all over the place. So there's definitely some purpose behind the manufacture of these. You can see they're made from all kinds of stone, various mafic and felsic rock. doesn't appear as though, you know, they've been broken in half in order to use this flat edge as a platform to produce flakes. This one's quite interesting. It appears as though this may have been ground down for some kind of purpose. Again, made out of our curious volcanic rock phonolite. So this seems to be quite an important rock. So here we appear to have some kind of core, and we can see it's felsic, something like shirt, and what we can see is that various chunks have been taken off this, and they may have in turn been reworked into some form of sort of small blade scraper or something similar to that. So this appears to be some kind of core. So just having a look at this, what we can see is we've got another piece of phonolite, and we can see some large chunks that have been knocked off this. And I'll just step over and grab this from the other side. What we can see is this phonolite has had a large percussion or negative bulbar percussion, large flake taken off this, and that may have been used to, you know, improve this edge and make it into some kind of chopper or something similar to that. But it is interesting that this kind of basalt was chosen for the purpose, and seems to be quite a popular stone of choice. Okay, I just want to show you this. So what we've got here is a piece of shell, something like a limpet, and what they used to do is grind down the shell until there was a hole, and then splitting it, they would make a fishing hook. And this may not be a fishing hook, it may just have occurred like this, but it is out of the Midden site. And then what they used to do is use a little bit of you know, plant matter to produce a twine that they would attach to that, and that would be their fish hook. So just pulling this one up, what we can see is these various notches, and you may have seen some of the other videos where we've had a look at notches of a similar nature in a similar kind of basalt before, and these are what is known as a firestone, and these notches, which may have been some kind of gas bubble or a hole that may have been eaten out a little bit by some kind of crustacean, are used, and then they are pitted out to improve that kind of boring hole, to enable sort of a shaft to be held in there for the purpose of applying pressure to it, so it could produce friction to start a fire. So what's interesting, and I just wanted to push in and show you, is this basalt that is clearly within the Midden site. And from what I've seen, basalt seems to have been the rock of choice, and I've seen a lot of basalt cores all around the place, so that's quite interesting seeing one directly in the Midden site itself. So I'm just on the south side of this island, and because the Midden site actually extends all the way around the island from the south side, you know, around the west side that we saw in the opening shot, and then along that edge that we've just been looking at, which is on the north side with the protection. But I just wanted to have a look along this south side to see if there's anything of interest, because we can see that it's still part of a Midden site, not as extensive as the west or the north side, but if I just push in, what we've got here is another piece of greenstone, and I talked about that just before, and the value that it had. So that's interesting that we find that there. And the only other interesting things that we really see along this side here is the stones which are broken in half. I've found a few different varieties. I've found some quartz ones, other kind of mafic ones and things like that. So there wasn't a great deal to be seen on this south side. Last time I was at this location, this bank here was a little bit more exposed, and I found a few shirt scrapers and things like that. Unfortunately, I left them at the site, as you should do, but they have now disappeared. But disappointingly, you can see that erosion and the tide is now making its way up to this Midden site and slowly eroding it out. And although this Midden site probably extends quite a distance back, everything that is in there is eventually going to get washed out, and any kind of discernible workings of those stones is going to be lost. So it's a little bit disappointing to see that these sites are slowly disappearing. So I might leave it there. I've walked up and back and had a look at some of the different stones, showed you some of the more interesting ones. It's interesting to see, if we look along this Midden side here, we can see a core in there, and a lot of the other stones we see are the hard felsic or mafic rocks that don't produce sediment and stuff when used, and it seems to be that the harder stones were the preferred tool of choice, even without any kind of modification. So finding a tool that's been modified would have taken a little bit more effort, and that effort probably wasn't always necessary. So that's a quick look at the Windang Island, Midden.